Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something a little different. We aren't just visiting a place or a time. We are going to try on a feeling. The feeling of being, without any real exaggeration, the richest person who has ever lived. Imagine wealth so vast it becomes an abstraction, a number with too many zeros to fit comfortably on a screen. We're stepping into the life of a 14th century African king whose vacation, and I mean that literally, a single trip, was so lavish it broke the economy of every city he visited. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps the channel in a way that, unlike our story's protagonist, I can actually quantify and appreciate. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments what city you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a quiet thrill to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the air. It's warm, yes, but it's a soft, dry heat that carries the scent of baked earth, distant wood smog, and something else, something faintly metallic and sweet. You're lying on a pile of silk cushions, so many that your body sinks into them like a boat settling into water. The fabric against your skin is cool and impossibly smooth. You open your eyes. Above you, a ceiling of intricately carved mahogany, so dark it looks like polished night. Beams of morning light, thick with dancing dust motes, slice through lattice windows, painting shifting patterns on the clay walls. The walls themselves are plain. They're a deep, reddish-brown plaster, cool to the touch, and embedded with small, decorative tiles that shimmer faintly. This is your bedchamber in the capital city of Nianai, the heart of the Moli Empire. And you are the Mansa, the Emperor, specifically Mansa Musa. Use it up, the light cotton robe you wear for sleep falling around you. The silence of the royal compound is a managed thing. It's not empty, but buffered. You can hear the distant, muffled sounds of a city waking up, the lowing of cattle, the chatter of vendors in the marketplace, the rhythmic thump-thump of women pounding millet. It's the sound of your kingdom, a sprawling, thriving territory that stretches across what would one day be known as Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, and Chad. A territory built onto things, salt and gold. Your gaze falls upon a bowl of water brought for you to wash your face. It's a simple clay bowl, but the ewer beside it is solid gold, heavy and gleaming in the morning light. It's not even for a special occasion. It's just a jug. This is the casual reality of your world. Gold is not just currency. It's a construction material, a decorative element, a casual display of the ground beneath your feet. The Moli Empire, your empire, sits on top of some of the richest gold deposits the world has ever known, and you control it all. It flows from the mines of Bamboo Kai and BRE, transported by thousands of subjects. It's trade managed by your will alone. Historians and economists today still argue about how to even begin calculating your net worth. They throw around terms like trillions in today's money, but most conclude that your wealth was simply indescribable. How do you put a price tag on a man who could, on a whim, destabilize the entire global gold market? A servant enters, silent as a shadow, bowing low. He doesn't speak until you give a slight nod. He informs you that your griot is waiting. This is a crucial part of your morning ritual. A griot is not just a storyteller or a musician. He is a walking, talking library of your people's history, a genealogist who knows your lineage back through generations, a political advisor, and a keeper of culture. In a society where history is primarily oral, he is more valuable than any book. He sings the praises of your ancestors, reminds you of the great deeds of Sundiata Keita, the founder of your dynasty, and frames the challenges of the day within the grand epic of your people. He is your memory, your conscience, and your hype man, all rolled into one. It's a fascinatedly complex role that has no true equivalent in most other cultures. You rise and walk barefoot across the cool, smooth floor. Servants appear to dress you in fine, brightly dyed cotton and place heavy gold bracelets on your wrists and ankles. They feel like a familiar, comforting weight. As you step out into a sun-drenched courtyard, the scale of your palace becomes clear. It's a labyrinth of buildings, open-air corridors, and gardens, all built from the same reddish bank of earth. It's a style of architecture both beautiful and practical for the climate. But for all this splendor, a strange restlessness has been growing within you. You have the gold, the power, the stability. Your empire is secure. But your faith, Islam, calls for more. It calls for a pilgrimage, the Hajj, a journey to the holy city of Mecca that is the duty of every able-bodied Muslim who can afford it. And you, well, you can certainly afford it. The thought has been a small seed for months, but in the quiet of this morning, watching the sun climb over your prosperous capital, the seed begins to sprout. It's more than a duty. It would be a statement, a way to show the wider world, the sultans in Egypt, the merchants in Venice, the scholars in Baghdad, that the Mali Empire is not some mythical, faraway land of gold, but a center of power and faith to rival any of them. You want to see the world, and you want the world to see you. The idea, once sprouted, grows with the speed of a desert vine after a rare rain. It's no longer a quiet, personal thought. It's a plan, an imperative, and a plan of this magnitude cannot be set in motion with a simple decree. It requires the heart of your government to beat in the same rhythm. You summon your royal council. They gather in a large, airy chamber, the walls thick and insulating, keeping the midday heat at bay. There are no grand thrones or ostentatious displays here. Power in your court is understood, not constantly advertised. Use it on a raised platform, on a simple but elegant woven mat, leaning against a large cushion. Before you sit the most important figures in the empire, your chief military commander, his face like a mask carved from ebony, scarred and serious, your master of the treasury, a man who thinks in weights and measures of gold and salt, already looking anxious, and your chief imam, the led religious scholar, his eyes bright with intellectual and spiritual fire. And of course, your griot, who stands off to the side, his kora, a 21-stringed lute bridge harp, resting in his lap, ready to commit this moment to the living, breathing history he carries. You let the silence hang for a moment before you speak. You tell them of your intention. You will perform the Hajj. You will lead a caravan to Mecca. The reaction is immediate, though respectfully muted. The imam's face breaks into a beatific smile. For him, this is a supreme act of faith, one that will elevate the Mali Empire in the eyes of the entire Muslim world. Dioma. He immediately begins speaking of the religious significance, the blessings that will fall upon the land, the prestige it will confer. Your general, however, remains impassive, but you can see the slight tightening of his jaw. He sees a risk, a massive one. The Mansa, the unifying center of the empire, will be gone for not weeks, but months, perhaps even years. He thinks of succession, of opportunistic rivals, of the stability of a vast territory that relies on your personal authority. Who will rule in your stead? How will the borders be secured? His concerns are practical, grounded in the realities of holding power. Then there's your treasurer. The poor man looks like a GS trying to mentally calculate the cost and failing, the numbers spiraling into absurdity. A GS thinking of the logistics, feeding tens of thousands of people across the most inhospitable terrain on the planet, watering thousands of camels, sourcing supplies, and the gold. The gold. A royal pilgrimage cannot be done on a budget. It must be a display of power, of wealth, of divine favor. He sees mountains of gold being packed up and simply given away. It's his job to protect the empire's wealth, and you've just announced the most expensive undertaking in its history. This is where you reveal the true scope of your vision. It's not just about duty. It's about legacy. And here, in the quiet of your own mind, you think of your predecessor, Abu Bakr Raya. The story of his end is one of the great, lingering mysteries of your court. He was not a warrior king, but a dreamer, obsessed with the limits of the world. He was convinced that the Atlantic Ocean, the great green sea of darkness, was not endless. He believed it had another side. First, he sent a fleet of 200 boats filled with men, gold, and supplies, telling them not to return until they had found the other side or had run out of food and water. Only one boat came back. The captain told of a great river in the middle of the ocean, a violent current that swept the other boats away. Abu Bakr Raya was undeterred. He was a man possessed by a question. So he did something unprecedented. He assembled a new fleet, this time 2,000 boats, and decided to lead the expedition himself. He appointed you, his trusted deputy, as regent to rule in his absence. Then he sailed west, into the horizon, and was never seen again. Historians, both in your time and centuries later, will debate this story. Was it a true account of a bold explorer, a pre-Columbian transatlantic voyage from Africa? Or was it a convenient political myth, a tale spun to explain a transfer of power? The truth is lost to the sea, but his shadow remains. Your pilgrimage, then, is a different kind of exploration. Abu Bakr looked west, to the unknown. You will look east, to the heart of the known world. He sought to find the edge of the map. You seek to place your empire firmly in its center. His journey was one of subtraction, of disappearing from the world. Yours will be one of addition, of announcing your presence with a roar that will echo from the Sahara to the Arabian Peninsula. You will show the world that the power that disappeared into the ocean was nothing compared to the power that now sits on the throne. You address your council's concerns. You name your son, Magan, as regent. You empower your general to act with full authority to defend the realm. You reassure your treasurer that the mines of Bambuke will not run dry, that this expenditure is an investment, not a loss. It is an investment in prestige, in influence, in history itself. Your guide tucks a single, resonant note on his kora. He understands. This isn't just a trip. This is the stuff of epics. He is already weaving the narrative, crafting the verses that will be sung about this day for centuries to come. The great journey, the golden pilgrimage, the day Mansa Musa decided to show the world what the Mali Empire truly was. The debate is over. The decision is made. And across the capital, a new kind of energy begins to hum. The ultimate road trip is now in the planning stages. The decision is one thing. The execution is another. You can't just throw a few bags on a camel and start walking towards Mecca. You are about to assemble what is, for all intents and purposes, a mobile city. And packing for a city requires a level of logistical genius that would make modern event planners weep. The first order of business is people. A king does not travel alone. You need your royal court, advisors, scribes, emirs. You need your royal guard, a contingent of elite soldiers not just for protection, but for pageantry. You need engineers to help with river crossings and road repairs. You need doctors and healers, equipped with medicinal herbs and knowledge passed down through generations. You need cooks, servants, porters, and animal handlers. The numbers begin to swell. Soon, it's not a few hundred, but thousands, then tens of thousands. The final tally, which will be recorded by chroniclers in Cairo and beyond, is staggering. A precision of some 60 Jaro people. Think about that. That's the population of a respectable modern town. all getting ready to walk across a desert. Then comes the question of who these people are. This is not just a royal entourage. A journey of this spiritual significance attracts pilgrims from all corners of your vast empire. Word spreads along the trade routes, carried by merchants and messengers. The Mansa is going to Mecca. For many, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fulfill their own religious duty under the protection and patronage of the emperor himself. So they begin to arrive in Nianai. Farmers from the fertile banks of the Niger, merchants from the bustling markets of Timbuktu and Jen, scholars from the Sangor Madrasa. Each person requires food, water, and a place in the caravan. And then there's your personal retinue, which is a spectacle in itself. You decide that you will be preceded by 500 heralds, each dressed in the finest Persian silk and bearing a staff made of pure gold. These aren't just for show. Their job is to announce your arrival, to clear the path, to represent the majesty of the empire before you even appear. They are your living, walking, incredibly well-dressed business card. Next, you have to pack the supplies. This isn't a trip to the corner store. You're crossing the Sahara Desert. It is, quite literally, an ocean of sand. There are no towns, no wells for vast stretches. Everything you will need for weeks at a time must be carried with you. Sacks of millet, rice, and dried meats, cured fruits, water, in thousands upon thousands of goatskin bags, fodder for the animals, firewood for cooking, tents for shelter, medical supplies. It's a mountain of material. And how do you transport this mountain? Camels, thousands of them. The camel is the ship of the desert, and your fleet is colossal. You requisition camels from every corner of the empire. At least one, 0 personal camels for your immediate baggage, and then thousands more for the rest of the caravan. These aren't just any camels. They are the finest beasts, strong and accustomed to long, arduous journeys. Their handlers, men who have spent their lives with these animals, are as essential as any soldier or advisor. They know how to read the signs of an animal's distress, how to base them, how to find the most efficient way to load them. One of the curious, and often overlooked, aspects of this preparation is the sheer amount of rope required. You need miles of it. Rope to secure loads to the camels, rope for the tents, rope to tether the animals at night. It's made from baobab bark and palm fibers, a massive, labor-intensive cottage industry that goes into overdrive to supply your caravan. It's a small, mundane detail, but without it, the entire enterprise would literally fall apart, as the weeks of preparation turn into months. The capital city of Nianai transforms. It becomes a massive staging ground, a sprawling camp that extends far beyond the city walls. The logistics are mind-boggling. You have to organize this moving city into manageable units. The military contingent has its own command structure. The civilian pilgrims are organized by their town of origin. The merchants have their own section. Each group knows who they report to, where they get their rations, and their position in the vast, snaking line that will soon stretch for miles. This organizational structure is a point of academic fascination. Some historians believe it was modeled on a traditional Malian military formation, a testament to the empire's administrative and strategic sophistication. It was just a crowd of people. It was a disciplined, organized expedition. They weren't just hoping to survive the desert. They had a system designed to conquer it. You oversee it all. You walk through the camps, your golden staff glinting in the sun. You inspect the supplies, speak with the camel drivers, consult with your engineers. Your presence is a constant reassurance. It calms the anxious, motivates the weary, and reminds everyone of the grand purpose of this undertaking. You are not just a king commanding from a distance. You are the pilgrim in chief, involved in the nuts and bolts of the journey. Looking out over the sea of people and animals, the sheer scale of it all settles in. It's audacious. It's extravagant. It's borderline insane. And yet, it's happening. The mobile city is almost ready. The packing is nearly complete. But there's one last item to be loaded. The most important one. The one that will define this journey in Deco through history. The spending money. Now we come to the part of the story that sounds like a fable. If the logistics of moving 60 people are staggering, the logistics of the money you're bringing are simply otherworldly. You're not just packing gold. You are packing a significant portion of the entire world's supply of it. This isn't just for buying souvenirs. This is a statement of power, so loud it required no translation. Let's try to visualize it. First, the camels. In addition to the thousands carrying mundane things like food and tents, you designate a special train of 100 camels. These are not for baggage. Their sole purpose is to carry gold dust. Each of these 100 camels is loaded with sacks weighing around 300 pounds. Let's do the quick, very conservative math on that. 100 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold dust. That's 30 pounds of gold. In metric tons, that's roughly 6 tons. And this is just the dust. The loose change, if you will. It's the money for daily expenses, for alms to the poor, for market purchases, for tipping. But that's not the main event. The main event involves your personal retinue, the 500 heralds who will walk before you. You decide that each of these 500 men will carry a staff. A ceremonial staff. Yes, but one made of solid, glistening, heavy gold. Contemporary accounts, like those from the historian Al-Umari, who would later interview people in Cairo who witnessed your passage, describe these staffs in detail. Each staff weighed approximately 6 pounds, so 500 heralds, each with a 6-pound golden staff. That's another 3 pounds of gold, without 3 tons. This isn't currency. This is pageantry. It's mobile decoration. It's the equivalent of having your security detail carry briefcases made of solid platinum. It's a level of flex, to use a modern term, that is almost impossible to comprehend. So adding it all up, we have at least 15 tons of gold being carried by just this specialized portion of your caravan. But even this number, which sounds astronomical, is likely a wild understatement. This is just what the most famous accounts chose to highlight. It doesn't include the personal wealth of the merchants traveling with you. The gold woven into the clothing, the solid gold jewelry worn by you and your wives, or the golden tableware for your meals. The true amount was probably much higher, a figure that historians still debate with a mix of awe and academic frustration. Was it 18 tons? India? No. There's no way to know for sure. All we know is that it was enough to fundamentally alter economies hundreds of miles away. Now, where did all this gold come from? This was some ancestral treasure, hoard you were emptying. This was as, for the Mali Empire, close to business as usual. Your empire was a veritable gold factory. The mines at Bambouke, Dre, and Galamura, legendary across the known world, though their exact locations were a jealously guarded state secret. Gold was not so much mined in the sense of deep tunnels and carts, but rather found. It was alluvial gold, found in the sediment of riverbeds and in shallow surface deposits. Nuggets could be picked right out of the ground. The people of the region had perfected techniques for panning and extracting it for centuries. One of the more peculiar details about this gold is that within your own empire, it was the most valuable commodity for everyday life. The real treasure, the truly essential resource, was salt. In the sweltering heat of West Africa, salt was crucial for preserving food and for replenishing the body's own salt lost to sweat. It was, literally, a matter of life and death. Great slabs of salt were mined by enslaved people in places like Tag Hosa in the middle of the Sahara, and were so valuable that they were traded for their weight, or close to it, in gold. This strange economic reality, where the substance Europeans craved was less vital than common salt, is what allowed you to accumulate such a mind-boggling surplus of the yellow metal. You were sitting on a mountain of what the rest of the world considered the ultimate luxury. So, the loading begins. Under the watchful eye of your treasurer, the sacks of gold dust are carefully weighed and loaded onto the camels. The golden staffs are distributed to the heralds, who practice holding them, getting used to their weight. There's a quiet, almost reverential atmosphere to this process. The porters handling the gold are not casual. They understand they are touching the very source of the empire's power. You watch this process, not with the glee of a miser, but with the satisfaction of an artist preparing his materials. This gold is your paint. With it, you will paint a picture of the Mali Empire on the canvas of the world. A picture of piety, generosity, and power so immense it bordered on the divine. It was a calculated display. Every ounce of gold had a purpose, even if that purpose was simply to be given away. You weren't a dragon hoarding treasure, you were a river, and you were about to flood the desert. The day of departure arrives. It's not just a day. It's an event, a festival, a national holiday unlike any other. The air in Neon Eye, which for months has been buzzing with the energy of preparation, now crackles with a final, feverish anticipation. The sun rises on a city transformed, spilling its golden light over the endless sea of tents, the throng of people, and the patiently waiting animals. You emerge from your palace compound at dawn. The customary morning silence is gone, replaced by a low, powerful hum of tens of thousands of souls stirring. You are not dressed for travel. Not yet. You are dressed as the Mansa, the Emperor, for one last address to your people. You wear robes of deep indigo cotton, richly embroidered with threads of gold. Your sandals are simple leather, but the amulets on your arms and neck are heavy, ancient gold, passed down from your ancestors. You ascend a specially constructed wooden platform near the city's main gate, your council members and family arranged around you. Below you, a crowd of a size you can barely comprehend. Not just the 60 Jaro who are about to leave, but the citizens of Me, Anai, and the surrounding villages who have come to witness the spectacle. Their faces are a dark, upturned sea, all eyes fixed on you. The griots are in full voice, their kayars weaving intricate melodies as their powerful voices sing the story of this day, placing it in the grand continuum of Malian history. They sing of Sundiata Keita, the Lion King, who founded this empire. They sing of your own wisdom and piety. They are not just performing, they are consecrating the moment, ensuring it will never be forgotten. You raise a hand, and a hush falls over the massive crowd. Even the camels seem to quiet down. In the sudden silence, your voice, clear and steady, carries over the assembly. You speak not of gold or of glory, but of faith. You frame the journey in its true context, a sacred duty. You speak of fulfilling one of the 5 pillars of Islam. You ask for the blessings of Allah on the journey, and upon the empire you leave behind. You commend your son, Maigen, to the people, and the people to him. You speak of unity and stability. It is a speech of a king who is secure in his power, but also a man of genuine faith embarking on a profound personal quest. The speech concludes. A great roar of approval rises from the crowd. The Imas led a collective prayer, a vast murmur of devotion that rolls across the plain. Then, the formalities are over. It is time. You descend from the platform and retire briefly to exchange your imperial robes for the simple, unadorned white garments of a pilgrim, the Iram. Though you won't officially enter the state of Iram until you get closer to Mecca, adopting simpler dress now is a symbol. It's a gesture of humility, a stark contrast to the opulence of the caravan you lead. This act itself is a piece of brilliant political theater, the humble pilgrim leading the world's most magnificent procession. The signal is given. A horn blows, a deep, resonant sound that echoes off the city walls. The 500 heralds, already arranged at the head of the column, raise their golden staffs in unison. The light catches them, creating a forest of shimmering gold. They begin to march. Behind them, the soldiers of your royal guard, then the scholars and dimas, then your personal retinue, and then you, riding not a gilded chariot, but a magnificent horse, its harness admittedly decorated with small golden tassels. You are surrounded by your closest advisors and family members. Then the great, slow-moving river of people and animals begins to flow. The sections of the caravan, so meticulously organized, fall into place. The merchants with their goods, the pilgrims from various towns, the vast logistical train of supplies and porters. The column snakes out of the city gates and onto the open savanna. It takes hours for the entire procession to pass a single point. From the walls of Niyanai, it must look like the whole world is on the move, a ribbon of life stretching to the horizon. This grand departure ceremony is a critical piece of statecraft. It's a demonstration for those left behind. It shows them the power and organization of the empire. It inspires awe and confidence. It quells potential dissent by making the man's as power tangible and visible. It's not just a goodbye party. It's a reinforcement of the very order of things. One interesting, undebated element of this departure is the role of your wives. The chief wife, the empress, would have had her own extensive retinue, a court within a court, complete with her own servants, guards, and baggage. Some chronicles suggest she traveled with you, a moving palace of female power and influence accompanying yours. The presence of so many women, from royal wives to the wives of merchants and pilgrims, is a detail often glossed over, but it highlights that this was not a military expedition. It was a society on the move, with all its complexities. The precise political influence your empress wielded on this journey is a topic that historical sources give us only tantalizing hints about, a fascinating what-if for historians. As you ride, the sounds of the city, the cheering, the music, the prayers, slowly fade behind you. They are replaced by new sounds, the rhythmic plodding of thousands of feet, the soft shuffle of camel hooves in the dust, the jingle of harnesses, and the low murmur of countless conversations. The journey has begun. Before you lies the savannah, and beyond that, the terrifying, beautiful emptiness of the Sahara. The savannah is forgiving. At first, it's a familiar landscape of scattered acacia trees, tall grasses, and baked red earth. Game is relatively plentiful, and water sources, while not abundant, are known and met. For the first few weeks, the caravan moves with a confident, steady rhythm. The organization holds. Rations are distributed efficiently. The mood is optimistic, buoyed by the grand purpose of the journey. This is the training ground, the warm-up lap before the main event. But then, day by day, you watch the landscape change. The trees become scarcer, more stunted. The grass thins out, giving way to patches of rock and sand. The air grows hotter, drier. The sun is a relentless hammer in a vast, pale blue sky. You are approaching the southern edge of the Sahara, the region known as the Sahel. And soon, you leave even that behind. You are entering the sand sea. The sheer, soul-crushing emptiness of the Sahara is impossible to describe. It is a world of horizons. In every direction, there is nothing but an undulating landscape of sand and sky. Dunes, some as large as rolling hills, shift and change with the wind. The ground can be soft, and that sucks at the feet of people and animals, or it can be a hard, flat plain of baked gravel that radiates heat like a stovetop. There is no shade. There is no natural source of food. For weeks on end, there is no water. Survival here depends entirely on what you carry with you. The logistics you planned in Nihonai are now a matter of life and death. The water masters become some of the most important people in the caravan. They ration the water from the goatskin bags with an iron will. Each person and each animal receives a precise amount, just enough to sustain them. To waste water is a crime worse than theft. The heat is a physical presence. During the day, it's a suffocating blanket that drains the strength and parches the throat. To counter this, the rhythm of the caravan inverts. You travel in the cooler hours of the late afternoon, the evening, and the very early morning, guided by the stars. The sky at night is a revelation. With no competing light, the stars are a brilliant, crowded canopy, so bright they seem almost within reach. Your astronomers and guides use them to navigate. Their knowledge of the celestial map is crucial as any physical one. During the brutal peak of midday, the caravan halts. Tents are pitched, creating precious pools of shade. People and animals rest, conserving every drop of energy and moisture. This is where the true genius of your mobile city reveals itself. It's not just about supplies. It's about morale. At night, around the carefully rationed campfires, the griots play their kei-oras. Their songs are not just entertainment. They're a lifeline to the culture and identity you've left behind. They tell stories of heroic ancestors who faced even greater challenges. They remind everyone of the sacred goal that awaits them in Mecca. The IMAS-led prayers, their voices creating a sense of shared purpose and divine protection in the terrifying emptiness. Thy fascinating microeconomy springs up within the caravan. Merchants trade goods. A farmer who brought extra dried fruit might trade it with a soldier for a bit of mended leather. Skills become a form of currency. A man who is good at repairing sandals is suddenly a very popular person. This internal society, with its own rules and exchanges, is what keeps the great organism of the caravan healthy. Still, the desert takes its toll. People get sick. Animals weaken. The psychological strain is immense. The unchanging landscape can play tricks on the mind. The constant heat frays tempers. This is where your leadership is tested. You move through the camps during the midday rest. You speak with the pilgrims, offer words of encouragement, and listen to their concerns. You personally ensure that the sick are being cared for by your physicians. Your presence, calm and resolute, is the anchor that holds the caravan's morale together. One of the strange, unverified legends that would later be told about your journey concerns the infrastructure you supposedly built along the way. Some later accounts, likely exaggerated, claim that you had a mosque built in every town you stopped in on a Friday. While this is probably a myth designed to emphasize your piety, there is a kernel of truth to it. The sheer scale of your caravan meant that at every major stop, you had to essentially build a temporary town. The logistics involved digging wells or managing water access, setting up a marketplace, and organizing a vast campsite. The idea that you built a mosque might be a metaphorical way of saying you established a center of the Malian community wherever you went, leaving a powerful impression of your empire's organizational might. The actual archaeological evidence for this is, as you might guess, a subject of ongoing debate among scholars. Weeks turn into a month, then two. The Sahara is a relentless filter, stripping away everything that is non-essential. All that matters is water, food, navigation, and faith. You are no longer the emperor in his palace. You are a leader of a tribe, guiding your people through the ultimate test of endurance. And as you finally see the faint, hazy outline of a settlement on the horizon, you know you have conquered the first, and most difficult, leg of the journey. You have crossed the ocean of sand. The hazy outline on the horizon slowly sharpens into the improbable reality of Tag Haza. If Nihonai is a city built on gold, Tag Haza is a city built of salt. It exists for one reason and one reason only: the massive deposits of pure, rock salt that lie beneath the desert floor. It's a vital organ in the trans-Saharan trade. the northernmost lung of your empire's economic body. As your immense caravan approaches, it must look like a shimmering, advancing mirage to the inhabitants. Taghaza isn't a pretty place. It's a mining outpost, grim and functional. The most striking feature, the one that makes every visitor pause, is that the buildings themselves are constructed from large, rough-hewn blocks of salt. The walls of the houses are salt. The local mosque is salt. In the blinding desert sun, the entire settlement has a strange, translucent glow. The only non-salt construction material is the camel hide used for the roofs. It's a surreal, monochromatic landscape. The air here tastes of salt. The ground crunches with it. Life in Taghaza is harsh, revolving around the back-breaking labor of the salt mines. The miners, many of whom are enslaved people, toil in the oppressive heat to cut great slabs of salt from the earth. These slabs, weighing hundreds of pounds each, are the reason for your empire's immense wealth, just as much as the gold. They are loaded onto camels and sent south, where they will be traded for the gold of the savannah lands. It's the northern half of the great economic engine you control. Your arrival is a major disruption and a massive economic event. The local governor, your appointed official, comes out to greet you with a mixture of reverence and thinly veiled panic. He now has to find a way to provide water for 60 Zaro people and their animals in a place where water is more precious than the gold you carry. Your caravan's own water supplies are severely depleted after the desert crossing, and they must be replenished before you can continue east towards Egypt. Fortunately, your planners anticipated this. Messengers were sent ahead weeks ago, instructing the governor to hoard water from the town's few brackish wells. Large cisterns were prepared. Even so, it's a massive strain on the outpost's meager resources. This is where your gold first comes into play on a large scale. You pay for everything. You pay for the water. You pay for the fodder for your camels. You pay for any local supplies that can be mustered. You pay in gold dust, measured out carefully by your treasurers. For the merchants and officials of Taghaza, it's a sudden, unprecedented windfall. The local economy, normally running on a slow barter system of salt for militant water, is flooded with the most coveted currency in the world. You spend several days here, allowing your people and animals to rest and recover. It's a crucial respite. The psychological relief of being in a settlement, even one as stark as Taghaza, is immense. Your soldiers patrol the perimeter, your scribes take inventory, and your engineers inspect the equipment. It is during this stop that you might encounter one of the more peculiar and grim details of life in this region. The houses are said to be plagued by flies, but these aren't just any flies. The historical accounts, particularly those of travelers like Ibn Battuta who would pass through a few decades later, describe the flies as being exceptionally numerous and aggressive. This small, irritating detail paints a vivid picture of the harsh realities of life here, a far cry from the perfumed air of your palace in Neonai. It's a reminder that this great journey is not a sanitized royal procession. It's a gritty, real-world expedition. While in Taghaza, you also engage in the business of the empire. You receive reports from the governor about the salt production and the security of the northern trade routes. You dispense justice, settling disputes that have arisen among the locals. Your presence reinforces your authority, even in the most remote corners of your domain. You are not an absentee landlord. You are a hands-on ruler. The academic debate surrounding places like Taghaza often centers on the nature of the labor in the mines. While many workers were undoubtedly enslaved, the exact system of labor, whether it included indentured servants, paid laborers, or a mixture, is not perfectly clear from the historical records. Understanding the precise social and economic structure of these vital production centers is key to understanding the Mali Empire as a whole, and it remains a subject of active research and discussion among historians of Africa. After several days, the caravan is ready to move on. The waterskins are full again. The animals are rested. The people's spirits are restored. You have successfully navigated the first great barrier of the Sahara. The next leg of the journey will take you through more arid wasteland. But the ultimate prize on this side of the continent is now closer. The ancient, magnificent civilization of Egypt and the lifeblood of its existence, the Nile River. As you leave the glowing salt brick city behind, the name Mansa Musa and the story of his golden caravan begin to travel ahead of you, passed from one trading caravan to another, moving faster than your own deliberate pace. The whispers are heading for Cairo. Leaving Taghaza is like pushing off from a rocky shore back into the open ocean. The next stretch of desert is just as vast and unforgiving as the last. But there's a new energy in the caravan, a sense of forward momentum. You've crossed the heart of the Western Sahara. Now you are on the long road to the Nile Valley. The journey falls back into its established rhythm, marching in the cool of the night, rusting during the inferno of the day, the songs of the griots filling the starlit silence. As you travel east, your caravan is a self-contained world, but it's not entirely isolated. You are following ancient trade routes, invisible highways etched into the sand by centuries of commerce. Occasionally, you encounter other, smaller caravans. These encounters are tense at first. A caravan of 60. Duru is not a common sight. It's an invading army. But your heralds, with their silk robes and golden staffs, go out to meet them, announcing who you are and the peaceful, pious nature of your journey. These encounters are your first real chance to see your own reflection in the eyes of the outside world. The traders, mostly Berbertois nomads, the undisputed masters of desert travel, are stunned into silence. They stare at the endless column of people, the thousands of camels, the sheer, casual opulence of it all. And they are the carriers of news. When they part ways with your caravan, they take the story with them. The news travels along the trade routes like a ripple in a pond. It moves from oasis to oasis, carried by word of mouth. In the marketplaces of desert towns like Jihad, Ames and Dem, URZUQ, merchants heading east meet merchants heading west, and they exchange information. The story gets passed on, likely growing with each retelling. Had you heard? The king of the blacks is crossing the desert. They say he travels with an army of people. I heard from a man who saw it with his own eyes. His servants carry staffs of solid gold. They say he has so much gold, he uses it as ballast for his camels. The whispers coalesce into a legend long before you are anywhere near Egypt. They travel faster than you do, the bow wave of rumor and myth preceding your arrival. In Cairo, the political and economic hub of the Mamluk Sultanate, these stories are at first dismissed as the usual desert exaggerations. Cairo is the center of the world, or so it sees itself. Its ruler, the Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad, is a powerful and sophisticated monarch. He has seen rich pilgrims before, but the reports keep coming, and they are strangely consistent. They come from different sources, from trusted merchants, from the Sultan's own spies and patrols on the western frontier. They all tell the same story. A king from the far west of Africa is on his way, and his wealth is beyond imagination. The numbers are what boggle the mind. 60,000 people, 100 camels loaded only with gold dust. The detail of the 500 golden staffs is repeated again and again. The Sultan's court begins to take the matter seriously. This is not just a rich pilgrim. This is a major head of state. His arrival will be a diplomatic event of the first order. Preparations must be made. Protocol must be decided. The governor of Cairo is alerted. The merchants in the great Khan al-Khalili Bazaar begin to buzz with the news. For them, a rich visitor is an opportunity. They start thinking about what silks, what spices, what finely crafted goods they might sell. They have no idea what is about to hit them. One of the fascinating details about this period is the role of Venetian and Genoese merchants in Cairo. They were the bridge between the Islamic world and Christian Europe. They had permanent trading posts and communities in the city. The news of your impending arrival would have spread through their networks as well. Letters would have been dispatched on ships bound for Venice and Genoa, carrying the fantastical stories of this African king and his mountain of gold. This is how the legend of Mansa Musa first began to seep into the consciousness of Europe, eventually leading to his inclusion on maps like the famous Catalan Atlas. Historians often debate the Mamluk Sultan's initial perception of you. Was he dismissive, seeing you as a ruler from a less developed, fringe part of the world? Or was he intrigued, understanding that any empire capable of mounting such an expedition and possessing such wealth was a significant power, even if it was one he knew little about? The Mamluk Sultanate itself was a formidable military and economic power, controlling the lucrative trade routes to the east. The Sultan likely saw your arrival as both an opportunity for trade and a potential diplomatic challenge. He would have to show you respect, but also firmly assert his own sovereignty and prestige. Back in the desert, you are largely unaware of the storm of rumor you have kicked up. Your focus is on the daily challenges of the journey. But you are getting closer. The landscape begins to change again. You start to see signs of more regular habitation. The wells are more frequent, the vegetation more resilient. And then one day, a scout returns to the caravan, his face lit with excitement. He has seen it. Green. The lush, impossible green of the Nile Valley. You have crossed the great wilderness. You have reached the shores of a different kind of river, one that promises not just water, but entry into the heart of the old world. The whispers are about to become a reality. You are about to knock on Cairo's door. The transition from the desert to the Nile Valley is a shock to the senses. After months of a world rendered in shades of yellow, brown, and pale blue, the sudden, violent green of the cultivated lands along the river is almost overwhelming. The air, which was once bone dry, is now thick with humidity and the smell of damp earth, flowering jasmine, and river water. For the people of your caravan, who have known nothing but the Sahara for what seems like an eternity, it's like stepping into paradise. The relief is palpable, a collective sigh of 60. Zaro souls. You have arrived not at Cairo itself, but at the outskirts of the Mamluk Sultanate's vast territory. Your first official stop is a town near the pyramids of Giza. The pyramids themselves are a spectacle. They are already ancient, over 3,000 years old by your time, their original gleaming white limestone casing long since stripped away. Still, their scale is awe-inspiring. They are a statement of power from a civilization long dead, and a fitting backdrop for the meeting of two of the world's most powerful living rulers. You order the caravan to make camp. This is not a rushed entrance. It is a calculated pause. You are allowing the city of Cairo to fully absorb the reality of your presence. The sight of your tent city, sprawling for miles within view of the pyramids, is a spectacle in itself. The 500 golden staffs of your heralds, now polished and gleaming, are arranged in ranks. The smoke from thousands of campfires rises into the evening sky. You have effectively laid siege to Cairo, not with weapons, but with wealth and sheer presence. The news of your arrival sends a final, frantic shockwave through Cairo. The rumors are true. He is here. The Sultan, Al-Nasir Muhammad, dispatches a high-ranking emissary, a vizier, to formally greet you and extend an invitation to the city. This is the first official contact, a carefully choreographed diplomatic dance. The emissary arrives at your camp with his own impressive retinue, but it is dwarfed by the scale of your operation. He is escorted through the rows of soldiers and pilgrims to your main tent. Your reception tent is a masterpiece of Malian craftsmanship. It's not made of gold, but of rich, colorful fabrics and woven materials. You receive him seated on a raised platform, surrounded by your chief advisors. You are calm, regal, and deeply impressive. You speak through a translator, though you likely have some knowledge of Arabic, the lingua franca of the educated Islamic world. The exchange is formal and polite. The Sultan welcomes you. You express your gratitude. An invitation to enter Cairo and meet the Sultan in his citadel is extended and graciously accepted. After the emissary leaves, the preparations for your entry into the city begin. This will be the grandest piece of theater yet. Everyone in the caravan bathes in the waters of the Nile. Fresh robes are distributed. The gold is polished. The horses are groomed. You are no longer just a pilgrim. You are a visiting emperor, and you will look the part. The day you enter Cairo, the city grinds to a halt. The citizens line the streets, crowding onto balconies and rooftops to get a glimpse of this legendary king from the south. The procession is led by your 500 heralds, their golden staffs catching the Egyptian sun, a sight so incredible that the crowd gasps. Behind them come your soldiers, disciplined and impressive. Then come the camels, not just 100 laden with gold dust, but thousands of others, creating an endless river of life flowing into the city. Then you appear. You ride a magnificent stallion, and you are dressed in your finest robes, though they are still of a pious and dignified cut. You radiate an aura of immense power and quiet authority. The sheer spectacle is unlike anything Cairo has ever seen. The Mamluk chronicler al-Umarai, who was not present but who would later speak to dozens of eyewitnesses, captured their astonishment. They were amazed not just by the gold, but by the discipline, the organization, and the regal bearing of you and your court. You were not some barbarian king. You were the head of a sophisticated and powerful civilization. A little-known detail from these accounts is the impression your people's physical appearance made. The Cairenes were fascinated by the deep black skin of your Malian retinue, their distinct clothing, and their different language. It was a vivid, human encounter between two different worlds, both part of the wider Islamic faith but culturally distinct. The procession wings its way through the crowded, narrow streets of medieval Cairo, a chaotic and vibrant metropolis. The sounds, the smells, the sheer density of the city are a stark contrast to the open spaces of your homeland. You are guided towards the citadel of Cairo, a massive fortified complex on a hill overlooking the city. It is the heart of Mamluk power, a fortress and a palace in one. This is where the Sultan awaits. The final leg of the journey to the throne room is a steep climb, a symbolic ascent to the pinnacle of power in this part of the world. The doors of the citadel are opening for you. The whispers and rumors are over. The two great rulers are about to meet face to face, and a very awkward moment of protocol is about to unfold. The debate among historians here is subtle but important. Was your display of wealth primarily for the benefit of the Cairenes and the wider world, or was it also aimed at your own people? By showing the pilgrims in your caravan the splendor and power of their Mansa on a world stage, you were reinforcing their loyalty and the legitimacy of your rule back home. Every odd gasp from a Cairene was a testament to the power of the empire they belonged to, a story they would carry back with them until for generations. You arrive at the Sultan's magnificent reception hall within the citadel, a grand chamber known as the Great Diwan. The air is cool, a welcome relief from the sun. The room is a testament to Mamluk power and taste, with soaring arches, intricate marble floors, and stunning stained glass windows. At the far end, on a raised dais, sits Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad. He is surrounded by his own court, fierce-looking Mamluk IRS commanders, turbaned scholars, and eunuchs of the court. The air is thick with tension and protocol. This is the moment of truth. Two of the most powerful men in the world are about to interact, and everything is freighted with meaning. According to the strict courtly etiquette of the Mamluks, a visitor, regardless of rank, was expected to show deference to the Sultan by kissing the ground and then his hand. It was a clear, unambiguous acknowledgement of the Sultan's superior position as the guardian of the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, at that time under Mamluk protection and the most powerful ruler in the heartlands of Islam. Your advisors would have briefed you on this. They knew the protocol. But you are the Mansa of the Mali Empire, the sovereign ruler of a domain larger and arguably richer than the Sultan's. You answer to no one but Allah. To kiss the ground before another temple ruler, even one as powerful as Al-Nasir Muhammad, is anathema to you. It would be a betrayal of your own sovereignty and the dignity of your empire. So as you approach the days, a moment of supreme awkwardness unfolds. An emissary of the Sultan steps forward and instructs you to perform the customary prostration. According to the detailed account left by Al-Umarai, you flatly refuse. You state, through your translator, I am a pilgrim, a follower of the Maliki school of Islamic law. I prostrate myself only before God. A shocked silence descends upon the hall. This is a major breach of protocol, a direct challenge to the Sultan's authority in his own court. The Mamluk emirs bristle, their hands instinctively moving towards the hilts of their swords. The Sultan himself, a man known for his pride and his temper, is visibly displeased. For a tense few seconds, a major diplomatic incident hangs in the air. Your entire pilgrimage could be jeopardized. This is where your diplomatic skill, and perhaps the sheer, undeniable reality of the 15 tons of gold you have parked outside, comes into play. You don't back down, but you offer a brilliant compromise. You turn, face a different direction from the Sultan, and declare loudly, "But I will prostrate myself before God, who created me and brought me here." You then perform a full, sincere prostration, a prayer to Allah, in the middle of the throne room. It's a masterful move. You have fulfilled your own religious principles while sidestepping the political submission. You have shown piety, not subservience. You have bowed, but not to the Sultan. Al-Nasir Muhammad, though likely still annoyed, recognizes the brilliance of the maneuver. He can't object to a display of piety. To do so would be unseemly. He is top-played. With a gesture, he accepts the compromise. The tension breaks. He invites you to sit beside him, a place of high honor. Now that the initial power play is over, the conversation can begin. They speak for a long time, through translators. You exchange gifts, a customary and crucial part of any royal meeting. The Sultan likely presents you with magnificent horses, fine silks, and other products of Cairene craftsmanship. Your gifts to him, of course, are gold. Not just raw gold, but likely also unique products from your empire. Finely worked leather goods, ivory, or perhaps even kola nuts, a West African delicacy unknown in Cairo. One of the more obscure, and frankly quite funny, details of Mamluk court life that you would have witnessed is the obsession with Faras Iyya. This was the Mamluk art of war, a complex code of chivalry that included not just horsemanship and archery, but also elaborate polo games, jousting, and military parades. The Sultan would have almost certainly treated you to a display of his Mamluk cavalry performing incredible feats of arms. It was their form of flexing, a way of saying, "You may have gold, but we have the world's most formidable military machine." It was a subtle, non-verbal continuation of the power negotiation that began in the throne room. The exact substance of your conversation is lost to history, a point of great frustration for historians who can only speculate. Did you discuss trade agreements? The political situation in the Sahara? The security of the pilgrimage routes? Did you compare notes on governance? It was a rare meeting of minds between two vastly different, yet equally powerful, spheres of the Islamic world. The debate over whether this was a tense rivalry or a meeting of respectful equals continues, based largely on how one interprets Al-Umar's account of the throne room incident. Finally, the audience concludes. You have successfully navigated the most delicate diplomatic challenge of your journey. You have established yourself not as a vassal or a minor king, but as the Sultan's peer. You are given a palace for your stay in Cairo, a lavish accommodation fit for a king. And now, With the official duties out of the way, you are free to experience the city. And more importantly, the city is about to experience you. The dam is about to break. The golden rain is about to fall. With the diplomatic formalities out of the way, you settle into Cairo. But you are not the kind of guest who stays quietly in his room. You are here to see, to learn, and, most consequential, to give. Your stay in Cairo, which lasts for 3 months, is not a quiet vacation. It is a continuous, citywide event, and the main attraction is your breathtaking generosity. Your daily routine becomes the stuff of legend. You hold open court in the palace you've been given. Anyone with a petition, a grievance, or simply a need can come before you. And you give. You give to the poor who crowd the streets. You give to the religious scholars in the mosques. You give to the government officials who assist you. You give to the merchants who show you their wares. You don't just give them a few coins. You give them handfuls of gold dust. You give them nuggets. You bestow such lavish gifts that the recipients are often left speechless, unable to process the scale of the wealth they've just been handed. Every Friday, you make your way to one of Cairo's magnificent mosques for prayers. Your procession through the streets is a weekly spectacle. And at every mosque, you make a massive donation for its upkeep and for the scholars and students who study there. You are not just a tourist. You are a patron of the faith on an imperial scale. Let's put this in perspective. The primary currency in Cairo at the time was the gold dinar. It had a stable, reliable value. Your caravan, however, is operating with raw, unminted gold, known as TBR. You are essentially injecting a massive, unregulated supply of the raw material for currency directly into the city's economy. At first, this is seen as a wonderful thing. People are ecstatic. Money is literally falling from the sky. A beggar who gets a handful of gold dust from you is suddenly wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. A merchant who receives a large nugget as a gift for a small favor finds his fortunes transformed overnight. The stories of your generosity spread like wildfire. If someone compliments your horse, you give them the horse, along with a bag of gold. If a court official provides a useful piece of information, you reward him with a gift so large it eclipses his annual salary. Al-Umarai records that you gave away so much gold that there was no emir, no holder of a royal office, who did not receive a gift from you. You are a walking, talking economic stimulus package. One of the fascinating, less discussed aspects of this period is the role of your wives and the women of your court. They, too, participated in this grand display. They would have visited the female quarters of the Mamluk palaces, interacted with the wives and daughters of the Cairene elite, and distributed their own lavish gifts. They would have patronized female merchants and artisans. This parallel world of female gift-giving and social networking was a crucial, though often unrecorded, part of your diplomatic and cultural impact. The precious silks, perfumes, and jewels they received in return would have been just as important as the horses and swords you received from the Sultan. This period of your stay is where the golden reign truly begins. Imagine a city where, for 3 months, a significant portion of the population is receiving unearned, unexpected windfalls of massive value. It's like everyone in town simultaneously won the lottery. The mood is euphoric. You are hailed as the most generous king who has ever lived. You are a folk hero. Historians have long debated the motivation behind this extreme generosity. Was it pure piety, an Islamic duty to give zakat performed on a royal scale? Was it a calculated political move, a way of buying influence and prestige, ensuring that the name of Mansa Musa would be spoken with all for centuries to come? Or was it, perhaps, a simple lack of understanding of the economic principles of supply and demand? This is a point of contention. Some scholars argue you came from a society where gold was so abundant that you genuinely didn't perceive its value in the same way the Cairenes did. Others argue you were an extremely savvy ruler who knew exactly what you were doing. You were using gold as a weapon of soft power, demonstrating that you could afford to treat as pocket change what the rest of the world considered the ultimate treasure. Regardless of the motive, the effect is the same. The city is being saturated with gold. Every day, more and more of it floods the markets, the mosques, and the homes of the people. The initial joy is blinding. No one is thinking about the consequences. They are too busy marveling at the golden torrent. But some of the shrewder merchants and money changers are starting to notice something strange. The scales are tipping. The fundamental laws of economics are beginning to groan under the weight of your generosity. The rain is wonderful, but the flood is coming. Your time in Cairo isn't just spent giving away gold. It's also spent acquiring things. You are, after all, a tourist, and Cairo is the greatest shopping mall in the 14th century world. The Khan al-Khalili, the city's Grand Bazaar, is a labyrinth of narrow alleys, a kaleidoscope of sights, sounds, and smells. It's where the goods of 3 continents converge. Spices from India, silks from China, carpets from Persia, steel from Damascus, and fine glass from Venice. For a man of your tastes and infinite resources, it's a paradise. You become the city's #1 customer. When you go on a shopping trip, it's not a casual affair. It's a royal procession. You move through the bazaar with your retinue, and merchants scramble to get your attention. They display their most prized possessions, goods they might otherwise wait months to sell to a wealthy emir or Venetian trader. And you buy. You buy with the same breathtaking abandon with which you give. You see a finely illuminated Quran, its pages decorated with gold leaf and lapis lazuli. You don't just buy. You commission the calligrapher to produce a dozen more for the libraries you plan to build back home. You admire a bolt of Persian silk, so fine it feels like water in your hands. You buy the merchant's entire stock. You are fascinated by the intricate metalwork of a Mamluk lamp. You hire the artisan on the spot, offering him a fortune to join your caravan and return with you to Mali. Your shopping list is a testament to your vision for your own empire. You aren't just buying luxuries for yourself. You are acquiring knowledge and talent. You buy books, hundreds of them, texts on Islamic law, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. The book markets of Cairo are a treasure trove, and you essentially try to buy the entire library. You are gathering the intellectual capital of the Arab world to bring back to West Africa. This is a key part of your legacy that is often overshadowed by the gold. You are not just a rich man on vacation. You are a nation builder on a talent scouting mission. Every purchase has a purpose. The silks and brocades will elevate the style of your court. The architectural books and the artisans you hire will transform the very look of your cities. The scholarly texts and the academics you recruit will form the foundation of a new center of learning in Timbuktu. Let's look at the immediate economic impact of your shopping spree. At first, the merchants are in heaven. They are selling their entire inventory at premium prices. A rug merchant who expected to haggle for days over a single fine carpet suddenly finds you buying 20 of them at his asking price, paid in pure gold dust. The economy of the bazaar is superheated. Everyone is getting rich, but your consumption, combined with your handouts, starts to have a strange effect on prices. The merchant who just sold you his entire stock of silk now has a large pile of gold. He goes to the food market to buy provisions for his family, and a chias feeling generous, so he doesn't haggle. The baker, seeing this wealthy merchant paying so freely, thinks, perhaps my bread is priced too low. He raises his prices. The weaver who sold you his finest cotton goes to buy a new donkey. The donkey seller, knowing the weaver is suddenly flush with gold, doubles his price. This happens all over the city, in thousands of small transactions. The sheer volume of new money, your gold, Chasing the same amount of goods means that the value of those goods starts to rise. This is the basic engine of inflation. The value of the gold itself is also starting to fall. When something is rare, it's valuable. When you are literally handing it out on the street corners, it becomes less so. The gold dinar, the stable currency of the Mamluks, is suddenly competing with vast amounts of raw, unminted gold. Money changers become confused. The old exchange rates no longer make sense. They weird. Little-known commodity you likely purchased was paper. While your own empire produced many things, high-quality paper, a technology that had spread from China through the Islamic world, was a Cairene specialty. The vast number of books you bought and the scribes you employed to copy manuscripts would have required a massive amount of it. Your bulk purchase of this single, seemingly mundane item would have been enough to affect the local market for scribes and bureaucrats. Historians still analyze the economic data from this period, using records of grain prices and property sales to track the inflationary spiral you set off. The debate isn't about whether you caused inflation, but about its speed and intensity. Was it a gradual rise over your 3-month stay, or a dramatic, sharp spike? The evidence suggests the latter. You were not just a shopper. You were a human hurricane of economic disruption. Your imperial shopping list was so long, and your purse so deep, that you were single-handedly rewriting the economic rules of the most important city in the world. The euphoria in Cairo begins to curdle. What started as a golden dream is slowly turning into a waking nightmare of economic chaos. The tipping point is reached when the fundamental relationship between gold and everything else breaks down. For centuries, gold had been the bedrock of the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern economy. It was the standard, the ultimate store of value. Its worth was a given, as certain as the rising of the sun. But you, in your boundless generosity and epic shopping sprees, have broken that certainty. You have treated gold not like a precious, finite resource, but like an infinite one, like sand or water. And by doing so, you have made it behave that way. The first people to truly understand the disaster are the money changers. These are the men who sit in the bazaar, their scales and weights before them, facilitating the commerce of the city. They exchange silver dirhams for gold dinars. They weigh out radi beer gold dust. They are the human calculators of the economy, and their calculators are broken. Imagine a money changer's stall. A woman comes to him with a small nugget of gold she received as alms from your entourage. A week ago, that nugget would have bought her family food for a month. The money changer would have weighed it, given her a handsome sum in silver and copper coins, and felt he got a good deal. But now, he already has a chest full of nuggets just like it. Everyone has them. His own personal wealth is skyrocketed, but his ability to use it is diminishing. He has plenty of gold, but the baker is now charging 10 times what he used to for a loaf of bread. So when the woman presents her nugget, the money changer offers her far less for it in silver than he would have a week ago. The value of gold, its purchasing power, is plummeting before his very eyes. This is the beginning of the Great Devaluation. The official Mamluk gold dinar, a carefully minted coin with a trusted weight and purity, is now competing in a market awash with raw, unrefined gold of varying quality. The value of the dinar begins to drop. People start to lose faith in it. Why hold a gold coin when the raw material it's made from is suddenly so common? The merchants who celebrated your arrival are now trapped. The man who sold his entire stock of carpets for a chest of gold dust finds that his newfound wealth buys him less and less each day. He is gold rich but stuff poor. He wishes he had his carpets back, as their value, in terms of what they can be traded for, is now more stable than the gold he received. Prices for everyday goods, food, clothing, livestock, rent, begin to spiral out of control. A simple transaction becomes a complex negotiation. How much for that chicken? In silver, it's 20 dirhams. in gold dust. Let me see the quality. Maybe half an ounce. No, wait. An ounce. This leads to a fascinating and obscure economic phenomenon. A flight to silver and copper. People start holding the lower value currencies because their value is, paradoxically, more stable. They also start resorting to barter. 2 chickens might be traded directly for a pair of sandals, bypassing the now unreliable medium of gold entirely. The entire monetary system of the most sophisticated economy in the region is seizing up, reverting to more primitive forms of exchange. The Sultan, Al-Nasir Muhammad, and his advisors watch this with growing alarm. Their own treasury, filled with gold, is losing value by the day. Their ability to pay their Mamluk soldiers, whose loyalty is predicated on regular, stable payment, is threatened. This isn't just an economic problem. It's a national security crisis in the making. Historians, poring over the few surviving economic records from the era, have tried to quantify this crash. The most cited figure, originating from Al-Umari, is that the value of the gold dinner dropped by at least 20%. Some modern economic historians believe the impact was even more severe, suggesting the purchasing power of gold in Cairo may have fallen by as much as 25–30% in a matter of months. This is a level of hyperinflation that modern economies struggle to cope with, let alone a 14th century one. And the crisis wouldn't be short-lived. The glut of gold you introduced into the system was so massive that it would take the region more than a decade to absorb it for prices to return to their pre-Musa levels. You, in the meantime, are likely only dimly aware of the chaos you are causing. You are surrounded by your advisors, living in a gilded bubble. People are still bowing to you, thanking you, and praising your generosity. But the nature of their praise is changing. It's less about pure admiration and more about a desperate attempt to get a piece of the golden pie before it becomes completely worthless. The smiles are still there, but they are strained. The city that welcomed you as a hero is beginning to see you as a natural disaster, a golden hurricane that has wrecked their entire economic house. The realization must have dawned on you slowly. Perhaps it was a comment from your own treasurer, a man accustomed to the stable, predictable value of gold back in your empire. He might have reported that the price for basic supplies for your own caravan, fodder for the camels, food for your people, was skyrocketing. The gold you were spending was buying less and less. Or maybe you noticed it yourself in the markets. The haggling became more frantic, the prices quoted to you more absurd. The deference you were shown was now tinged with a desperate, almost predatory energy. The moment of clarity, when you finally grasped the full extent of the damage, must have been a deeply uncomfortable one. You, Mansa Musa, the wise and powerful ruler, the pious pilgrim, had intended to shower Cairo with blessings. Instead, you had broken its economy. Your generosity, your greatest virtue on this trip, had become a destructive force. You had, with the best of intentions, played with a complex machine you didn't fully understand, and now all the gears were grinding and spitting sparks. Imagine the scene. You are in your Cairene palace, surrounded by the silks, books, and artworks you have purchased. They are symbols of your wealth and sophistication. Yet, outside the palace walls, that same wealth is causing chaos. The price of bread has tripled. Widows who live on a small, fixed income are finding they can no longer afford to eat. Soldiers are grumbling about their pay being devalued. You didn't just give away gold. You gave away stability. You gave away predictability. You replaced it with a wild, uncontrollable market frenzy. This is a profound and humbling moment. It's a classic case of a solution for one context becoming a problem in another. In your empire, gold was abundant. Giving it away was a sign of power and piety. The economy was vast enough, and perhaps simple enough, to absorb such gestures. But Cairo was different. It was a finely tuned commercial hub, the heart of a global trade network. Its economy was a delicate web, and you had torn a giant hole in it. The chronicler L. U. Morai, writing years later but with the fresh testimony of Cairene's citizens, describes this phase of your visit perfectly. He notes that your lavish spending continued right up until the moment of your departure. It suggests that you may not have fully grasped the damage until it was too late, or perhaps you felt you were in too deep to change course. To suddenly become stingy would have been an admission of error and a blow to your prestige. The ripple effects were not just economic, they were social. The inflation you caused was, in effect, a massive, unintentional transfer of wealth. People who held debt were winners. The value of the money they had to repay was now much less. Creditors, on the other hand, were ruined. Those on fixed incomes, pensioners, religious scholars living on endowments, government clerks, were devastated. The newly rich, those who got your gold early and spent it wisely on hard assets like property, thrived. The social fabric of the city was stretched and distorted. One of the more obscure consequences of this hyperinflation would have been on charitable endowments, or waqfs. These were institutions, often funding mosques, hospitals, or schools, that were set up to run on the income from gifted land or properties. With rents becoming chaotic and the value of currency plummeting, many of these pious foundations would have faced financial crisis, unable to fulfill their charitable missions. So your personal, spectacular act of charity had the ironic effect of crippling the city's established, long-term charitable infrastructure. The debate among historians here is fierce. The traditional narrative portrays you as a well-intentioned but naive ruler, economically unsophisticated, who was genuinely surprised by the consequences of your actions. It paints a picture of a man from a land of such immense wealth that he simply couldn't comprehend the concept of scarcity. However, a more recent and revisionist school of thought offers a different interpretation. It argues that you were far too intelligent and your advisors far too savvy to be completely ignorant of basic economics. In this view, crashing Cairo's economy wasn't entirely an accident. It was a raw demonstration of power. It was a way of saying, the wealth that underpins your entire society is nothing more than pocket money to me. I can destroy your economy by accident. It was the ultimate power move, a display of economic dominance, so profound that it left the Mamluk Sultanate, for all its military might, looking fragile and vulnerable. We can never know your true intentions, and the truth likely lies somewhere in between these two extremes. Regardless of your intent, the result is the same. The city is in turmoil. Your name is now associated not just with incredible wealth, but with incredible disruption. You have become a living legend, a cautionary tale. It is time to leave. Your pilgrimage is not over. The holy city of Mecca still awaits. But as you prepare to depart Cairo, you are a changed man. You arrived as a pilgrim wanting to show the world your greatness. You are leaving as a ruler who has learned a very public, very expensive, and very humbling lesson in global economics. As your 3-month stay in Cairo draws to a close, the atmosphere around you has subtly shifted. The initial awe and reverence from the local Cairenes have been replaced by a more complex and calculated response. They have figured out your pattern. They see you not as a divine force anymore, but as a predictable economic phenomenon to be exploited. You have become the world's wealthiest, most conspicuous tourist, and the city has adapted to fleece you. The moment you or anyone from your entourage steps out of the palace, prices spontaneously inflate. The vendor who was selling melons for a few dirhams a moment before will suddenly quote a price 5 times higher to your servant, knowing the payment will come from a bottomless purse of gold. The principle of tourist pricing has been invented on a grand, city-wide scale. The praise you receive becomes more and more sycophantic, a performance designed to elicit a golden reward. Poets compose elaborate odes to your generosity on the spot. Merchants present you with gifts that are not really gifts. but entry-level gambits in a negotiation for a much larger gift in return from you. Everyone has a story about a hardship they faced, a debt they owe, a pilgrimage they wish to fund, all presented to you in the hope of catching a few drops of the golden rain. It must be an alienating experience. The genuine human connection you might have sought is now buried under a mountain of opportunism. You are no longer a person. You are a walking treasury. Every interaction is transactional. This experience is a classic cautionary tale about the isolating nature of extreme wealth, a theme that resonates through the ages. Amidst this, the Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad watches you with a mixture of frustration and fascination. He has hosted you, honored you, but you have become a problem he can't control. You are a guest who has rearranged all the furniture in his house and set fire to the curtains. While he may have been tempted to intervene, to somehow stem the economic bleeding, how could he? You are a fellow sovereign, a guest, and a powerful one at that. To openly rebuke you or restrict your spending would be a grave diplomatic insult. He is forced to simply watch as the economy of his capital city is turned upside down. A particularly interesting and rarely mentioned group of observers would have been the European merchants, the Venetians, Genoese, and Catalans. They were hard-nosed capitalists, men who understood global markets better than anyone. They would have watched your spending spree with a professional, analytical eye. They saw firsthand how a massive influx of a commodity could devalue it. This was a real-world, high-stakes economics lesson for them. The letters they sent back to their home offices in Venice and Genoa, filled with incredible tales of your wealth, were not just gossip. They were market intelligence. They would have warned their partners that the value of gold in the eastern Mediterranean was temporarily crashing. They might have advised shifting assets into other commodities or currencies. Your visit was not just a local event. It was a shock to the international trading system of the 14th century. The academic debate here often revolves around the agency of the Cairene people. Were they simply passive victims of the economic chaos you unleashed? Or were they active participants, shrewdly adapting to the new reality? The evidence points to the latter. The Cairenes were not fools. They were citizens of a bustling commercial center, and they responded to market incentives with rational, if sometimes rapacious, behavior. Their opportunistic price gouging was a logical response to the presence of a customer with infinite demand and zero price sensitivity. It's a testament to their commercial acumen, even if it created a dysfunctional market for a time. As you prepare to finally leave Cairo and continue your journey towards Mecca, you are now fully aware of the economic havoc you've caused. The lesson has been learned, and in a surprising twist, you decide to do something about it. It's not enough to simply leave the mess behind. Your pride, your piety, and your sense of responsibility as a great king compel you to try to fix what you have broken. Your next move will be even more shocking to the Cairenes than your initial generosity. You are about to attempt to single-handedly reverse the inflation you caused. As you stand on the precipice of your departure from Cairo, a sense of responsibility weighs on you. You've seen the chaos, you understand the damage, and you cannot, in good conscience, simply walk away. Your legacy in this great city cannot be one of pure disruption. So, you decide to do something unprecedented. You will try to put the genie back in the bottle. You will try to reinflate the value of gold. How do you do that? The only way is to reduce the supply. You need to take gold out of the market. And so, you begin what must be the strangest borrowing spree in history. You, the richest man in the world, start asking for loans. You send your treasurers back to the very same Cairene merchants and money changers you showered with gold. But this time, they are not giving, they are borrowing. They go to the major lenders in the Khan el-Khalili and request massive loans, all to be paid back at a handsome rate of interest upon your return journey from Mecca. Imagine the scene from the perspective of a Cairene money changer. For weeks, the king of Mali has been the source of all wealth. a fountain of gold. Now, his men are at your door, asking to borrow that same gold back. It must have been utterly bewildering. Why would the man who seems to have an infinite supply of gold need a loan? The request is met with skepticism, but also with keen commercial interest. You are not just asking for a favor, you are offering a fantastic business proposition. You offer to pay exorbitant rates of interest. The lenders, having seen the value of their gold holdings plummet, are now presented with an opportunity to make that same gold work for them and generate a significant return. It's a risky proposition. What if you never return from Mecca? But the potential profit is enormous. It's a gamble, but a calculated one. So they agree. They lend you back the very gold you gave them, securing contracts for repayment at a high premium. This action is a masterstroke of economic intervention. In a single move, you soak up a huge amount of the excess gold that was sloshing around the Cairene economy. Every loan you take is a quantity of gold removed from circulation, making the remaining gold in the market slightly scarcer, and therefore slightly more valuable. You are performing what modern central banks would call quantitative tightening, but on a personal, medieval scale. This act of borrowing is one of the most debated aspects of your entire journey. The traditional view is that you ran out of money. This narrative suggests that your generosity was so extravagant that you literally exhausted your massive traveling fund and had to borrow to finance the rest of your pilgrimage. It paints a picture of poor planning and profligacy. However, most modern historians find this explanation ludicrous. The idea that a man who arrived with at least 15 tons of gold could run out is simply not credible. The far more likely explanation, supported by the economic evidence, is that this was a deliberate and sophisticated attempt to repair the damage you had caused. It was an act of economic stewardship. It was also an act of pride. You were demonstrating that your financial power was so great. You could not only crash the market but also single-handedly prop it back up. It was you saying, "Don't worry, we'll fix this." A curious, little-known detail of medieval Islamic finance is the religious prohibition on riba, or interest. Charging interest on a loan was considered sinful. However, clever financial instruments and legal workarounds were developed to allow for credit and investment while respecting religious law. For instance, instead of a loan with interest, a contract might be structured as a partnership or a sale with a deferred payment at a higher price. The high interest rates you offered would have been framed within these accepted legal fictions, making the transactions palatable to the pious Cairene lenders. Your advisors, knowledgeable in Islamic law, would have been experts at structuring these deals. Your borrowing spree has an immediate, though not total, effect. The value of gold begins to stabilize. It doesn't return to its former peak, but the free fall is arrested. You have applied the brakes to the runaway inflation train. This act is more to cement your legend among the financial elite of Cairo than any of your gifts. The generosity was shocking, but the intervention was brilliant. It showed you were not just a rich fool, but a powerful economic actor of immense sophistication. With the worst of the damage mitigated, you can now finally leave. You gather your vast caravan, now laden with not just the remaining gold, but with books, textiles, and the contracts of the scholars and artisans you have hired. You have also taken on a new burden, debt. It's a strange thought, you being in debt to anyone, but it's a necessary part of your plan. You bid farewell to the Sultan and the city of Cairo. The next stop is the entire point of this epic journey. You turn your face towards the Red Sea, towards the Arabian Peninsula. You are finally on your way to Mecca. The journey from Cairo to Mecca is a different kind of challenge. The desert here, in the Sinai Peninsula, is dark and mountainous, a landscape of raw, jagged rock and deep canyons. It is a holy land, steeped in the stories of the prophets. For you and the thousands of pilgrims in your caravan, every step is now charged with a deeper spiritual significance. The mood shifts from the worldly chaos of Cairo to one of pious anticipation. You travel southeast from Cairo, a journey that takes you towards the Red Sea. The logistics remain immense, but the goal feels closer, more tangible. The conversations around the campfires are less about the price of goods in the bazaar and more about the rituals of the Hajj, the spiritual purification that awaits. The imams and scholars you brought with you, and those you recruited in Cairo, take on a more prominent role, leading prayers and giving lectures on the significance of the pilgrimage. You eventually reach the shores of the Red Sea at a port like Suez or Ydhab. Here, a portion of your caravan must take to the water, while some may have continued overland. The most common pilgrim route involved a sea crossing to the port of Jeddah on the Arabian coast. This presents a new logistical hurdle, securing passage for thousands of people and their essential supplies. You hire a fleet of dhows, the traditional sailing vessels of the region. The sight of your people boarding these ships, the colorful sails catching the wind, is yet another spectacle in a journey defined by them. The sea voyage itself is a brief but welcome respite from the endless walking. The cold sea breeze is a relief after the dry desert heat, but it is also a time of reflection. As you look back at the coast of Africa, the continent where your vast empire lies, you are crossing a symbolic threshold. You are leaving your temporal domain and entering the spiritual heartland of your faith. After disembarking at Jeddah, the main port of entry for Mecca, the final leg of the journey begins. The landscape is arid and unforgiving, but the path is well-trodden. You are now part of a massive, multinational flow of pilgrims from all over the Islamic world. You see people from Persia, India, the Swahili coast, Anatolia, and the Maghreb. They speak different languages, wear different clothes, but they are all united by the same purpose. Your caravan, as enormous as it is now just one river flowing into a great sea of humanity. As you approach the Miqat, the designated station for pilgrims to formally enter the state of spiritual purity known as Iram, the transformation is completed. Here, all the men in your caravan, from you, the Mensa, down to the humblest porter, shed their worldly clothes. The silks, the fine cottons, the symbols of rank and wealth are all put away. Everyone dons the same simple garment, 2 pieces of unstitched white cloth. This act is a profound equalizer. In the eyes of God, you are now indistinguishable from any other pilgrim. Your golden staffs are put away. Your regal identity is temporarily suspended. You are simply Mirza, a servant of Allah. The women in your caravan also adopt simpler, more modest dress, covering themselves in a way that removes indicators of social status. This ritual of adopting the Iram is a powerful physical and psychological act. It strips away the ego and prepares the soul for the sacred rites to come. A little-known but fascinating aspect of the Hajj is the intricate system of guides and service providers that existed in Mecca. Each group of pilgrims, often organized by their region of origin, would have a designated mute WWF, a local guide who would lead them through the complex rituals, provide them with lodging, and act as their agent in the city. Your massive Malian contingent would have been a major client for one of these Meccan establishments, and the arrangements for your stay would have been a significant undertaking. The logistics of housing and feeding 0 extra people, even in a city accustomed to pilgrims, would have been a challenge. The final approach to Mecca is filled with a growing sense of awe. The valleys echo with the sound of thousands of voices chanting the Talbiyah, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Here I am, O God, here I am. The chant is a continuous, rhythmic affirmation of their arrival and submission. The air through them is with an energy that is entirely spiritual. And then, you see it, nestled in a valley surrounded by barren hills, the holy city of Mecca. At its heart, the destination of this year-long, 3,000-mile journey, the Kaaba, the simple, black, tube-shaped building that is the holiest shrine in Islam. For you, This is the culmination of a lifetime of faith, the fulfillment of a sacred duty, and the entire purpose of this epic, world-altering expedition. The gold, the chaos in Cairo, the endless desert, it all fades into the background. You have arrived. The academic debate surrounding this part of the journey often focuses on the sources. While your time in Cairo was well documented by external observers like Al-Umari, your personal experience in Mecca is less clear. The accounts are more generalized, focusing on the rituals of the Hajj itself rather than your specific actions. Historians have to piece together the likely experience from general accounts of the pilgrimage in the 14th century, leaving your personal, spiritual journey largely to sanctified imagination. Stepping into the Grand Mosque of Mecca, the Masjid al-Haram, is the moment your journey has been building towards. The scale of the place is immense, a vast open-air courtyard that can hold tens of thousands of worshippers, but all focus is drawn to the center. There stands the Kaaba. It's smaller than you might expect, a simple, unadorned cube draped in a black silk cloth called the Qiyaswa. Yet, its spiritual gravity is immense. This is the Qibla, the direction all Muslims face when they pray, the symbolic house of God. For you, a man who lives in a palace of intricate carvings and golden objects, its stark simplicity is a powerful statement. You and your people join the river of humanity circling the Kaaba. This is the Tawaf, the ritual circumambulation. You walk, shoulder to shoulder, with people from every corner of the known world. There are pale-skinned Turks, dark-skinned Swahilis, golden-skinned Persians, and brown-skinned Indians. Kings, merchants, scholars, and peasants, all reduced to the same state of humility by the simple white cloth of their iron. In this moment, you are not Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali, the richest man on earth. You are just Musa, the pilgrim. The gold you carry has no value here. The power you wield has no authority. All that matters is your faith. The experience is deeply personal, yet profoundly communal. The air is filled with the murmur of prayers, the sound of weeping, the collective chanting. You perform the 7 circuits, perhaps touching or kissing the sacred black stone embedded in one corner of the Kaaba if you can get through the throng. After the Tawaf, you perform the Sa'i, hurrying 7 times between the small hills of Saif and Marwa, enacting the story of Yara, wife of the Prophet Ibrahim, searching for water for her infant son, Ismail. It is a ritual of faith, perseverance, and divine providence. During your time in Mecca, you are not a ruler but a student. You seek out the most renowned scholars of the city. You, who have been the center of attention for so long, now sit humbly in study circles, listening to lectures on Islamic jurisprudence, theology, and the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. You are particularly interested in the Maliki school of law, which is predominant in your empire. You engage in deep discussions, asking questions, clarifying points of doctrine. Your aim is not just to perform the rituals, but to deepen your own understanding of your faith, an understanding you can take back to your people. Of course, your presence does not go entirely unnoticed. Even in the simple white robes of a pilgrim, the leader of a 60-person caravan stands out. The Sharifas of Mecca, the local rulers descended from the Prophet Muhammad, would certainly have paid you special honor. But the nature of your interactions here is different from in Cairo. The currency is not gold, but piety and knowledge. You continue your habit of giving alms, but it is done with more discretion, directed towards the upkeep of the holy sites and the support of the poor and the many students who flock to Mecca to study. A little known but poignant detail of the Hajj for pilgrims from distant lands was the high mortality rate. Many, especially the elderly, would undertake the journey knowing they might not survive it, seeing their death in the holy city as a great blessing. Your caravan, for all its resources, would not have been immune. Your physicians would have been busy treating heat stroke, dehydration, and diseases that spread quickly in the crowded conditions. You would have presided over the simple, quick burials of those who perish, a sobering reminder of the physical hardships that accompanied this spiritual peak. The climax of the Hajj takes place outside the city, on the plain of Arafat. On the appointed day, you and hundreds of thousands of other pilgrims gather under the hot sun at the Mount of Mercy. This is the spiritual pinnacle of the pilgrimage, a ritual that commemorates the Prophet Muhammad's farewell sermon. It is a day of intense prayer and repentance, a dress rehearsal for the day of judgment. You stand for hours, praying, reflecting on your life, your rule, your sins, and your hopes. The sea of people, all dressed in white, all praying to God, is a sight of overwhelming power. Here, more than anywhere, your identity as a king is completely submerged in your identity as a Muslim. Historians often debate the long-term impact of this spiritual immersion on your subsequent rule. Did the experience in Mecca genuinely change you? Some argue that the Mansa who returned to Mali was a more pious, more introspective ruler. His focus shifted from pure wealth and power to the cultural and religious development of his empire. Others see it as a continuation of his existing piety, simply reinforced and given new tools and ideas. What is certain is that you did not leave Mecca empty-handed. But the treasures you sought now were no longer made of gold. The spiritual climax of the Hajj is over. The rites are completed on the plains of Arafat and in Mina, with the symbolic stoning of the devil and the festival of sacrifice. You are now permitted to shave your head and remove the simple white cloth of the ayah, returning to your worldly attire. You are no longer just Musa the pilgrim. You are Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire once more. And Mansa Musa is ready to go shopping again. But this time, his shopping list is very different. Having filled your spirit, you now seek to fill your caravan with a new kind of treasure, human capital. Your experience in Cairo and Mecca has opened your eyes to the wider Islamic world's achievements in architecture, scholarship, and science. You realize that gold can build palaces, but only knowledge can build a civilization. You want to bring the sophistication you have witnessed back to your own empire. You want to transform your cities of Timbuktu and Jen from prosperous trading posts into world-class centers of Islamic culture and learning. So you begin the most audacious recruitment drive in history. You seek out the brightest and the best. You are not just looking for souvenirs. You are collecting the architects of a new golden age for Mali. Your agents spread out through Mecca and the surrounding regions. They are looking for talent. Your primary target is an architect and poet by the name of Abu Ishaq al-Seychelles. He is from Granada, in Muslim Spain Al-Andalus, a region renowned for its stunningly beautiful and sophisticated Moorish architecture. Al-Seychelles is a man of culture and learning, a poet as well as a builder, who had also made the pilgrimage. You summoned him for an audience. You are deeply impressed by his knowledge of construction techniques, his understanding of geometry, and his artistic vision. You make him an offer he cannot refuse. The historical accounts claim you offered him a staggering sum. Some say as much as 200 kilograms of gold, to return with you to Mali and oversee your new building projects. It was a fortune beyond his wildest dreams. For El-Seychelles, it was the commission of a lifetime, a patron of infinite wealth giving him a blank canvas on which to create his masterpieces. Dear Graves, he is perhaps your most famous purchase, but he is far from the only one. You also recruit a host of other professionals. You hire scholars and theologians to bring back the latest in Islamic jurisprudence and thought. You hire scribes and book copiers, masters of the beautiful art of Arabic calligraphy, to populate your future libraries. You hire scientists and mathematicians. You are essentially headhunting the intellectual elite of the Arab world. This brain drain you initiated is a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of your journey. While European nobles of a later age would go on a grand tour to collect art and antiquities, you went on a grand tour to collect people. You understood that the most valuable resource wasn't an object, but a skilled and knowledgeable human being. A quirky detail of this recruitment process is that you weren't just hiring the top-tier, famous individuals. You would have also needed to hire their support staff. An architect like Alsatial can't build a mast by himself. He needs skilled masons, tile makers, wood carvers, and plasterers who understand his techniques. So your recruitment likely extended to whole workshops of craftsmen, convincing them to leave their homes in places like Cairo or Granada and embark on a new life in a sub-Saharan empire they knew little about. The promise of wealth was surely the main lure, but the adventure and the chance to be part of a grand, new project must have also been a powerful incentive. The nature of these employment contracts is a subject of historical speculation. Were they offered permanent positions for life? Were they on fixed-term contracts? The relationship was likely one of patronage, where they would enter your personal service, and in return for their loyalty and skills, you would provide them with wealth, status, and security for themselves and their families. They were, in effect, becoming part of your extended royal court. As you prepare for the return journey, your caravan begins to look different. It is still massive, still laden with goods, but its most precious cargo is now the collection of scholars, poets, architects, and artisans nestled within it. You have shed tons of gold along your route, but you have gained something far more valuable. The gold was a means to an end. The end was this: the acquisition of the intellectual and cultural technology needed to elevate your empire to the next level. You have completed your sacred duty. You have seen the wider world and made it see you. You have inadvertently crashed an economy and then tried to fix it. And now, you have gathered the seeds of a cultural renaissance. The journey home will be long and arduous, but you are not returning the same man who left. And the Mali Empire you return to will not remain the same for long. The real construction project is about to begin. The journey home is not merely the reverse of the journey out. The caravan is transformed. Its purpose has shifted. On the way to Mecca, the focus was on piety, spectacle, and the sheer logistics of survival. On the way back, the focus is on preservation. You are now the guardian of a fragile and priceless cargo, the scholars, architects, and ideas you have collected. The mood of the caravan is different, too. The spiritual fervor of the Hajj is mellowed into a quiet satisfaction. The pilgrims among your people carry themselves with a new dignity. They are now Hoji, those who have completed the pilgrimage, a status of great respect back home. For the new members of your entourage, the Andalusian architect, the Cairene scholars, the Persian artisans, it is a journey into the unknown. They are filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, leaving the familiar world of the Mediterranean behind for the legendary land of gold. Your first major stop on the return journey is, once again, Cairo. You arrive not as a mysterious force of nature, but as a known quantity. The city receives you with a wary respect. The memory of the economic chaos you caused is still fresh. This is the moment of truth for the lenders who gambled on your return. You honor your debts, every single one of them. You instruct your treasurers to repay the loans you took out, with the agreed-upon exorbitant interest. This act sends another shockwave through the city's financial circles, but this time it's one of respect. You have proven yourself to be not just wealthy, but honorable. Your credit, should you ever need it again, is now impeccable throughout the world. This move solidifies your reputation as a sophisticated and reliable ruler, erasing the last vestiges of the naive barbarian image. While in Cairo, you continue your talent scouting, picking up a few more scholars and books that caught your eye. But your primary task is preparing the caravan for the final, most arduous leg of the journey, the great crossing of the Sahara, this time from east to west. The return trip across the desert is, in some ways, more difficult. The initial optimism is gone, replaced by a weary knowledge of the hardships to come. But your caravan is now an even more experienced and efficient machine. The guides know the route. The quartermasters know the exact amount of supplies needed, and the people know the rhythm of desert travel. The presence of your new foreign experts adds a layer of complexity. They are not accustomed to the harsh conditions of the Sahara. Special provisions must be made for them. They are likely given the best camels, the most comfortable tents, and extra rations of water. Protecting these men is your top priority. They are the seeds of your empire's future, and you cannot let them perish in the sand. During the long weeks in the desert, a unique, mobile university is formed. At the nightly encampments, your new scholars would have begun their work. You would have sat with them, along with your own Malian advisors, engaging in deep conversations. The Andalusian architect, El-Sishuai, would have unrolled sketches, showing you his ideas for new mosques and palaces, adapting the styles of Granada and Cairo to the materials and climate of the Sahel, using baked earth and wood instead of marble and stone. The theologians would have debated points of law with your local imams. It was a traveling think tank, a cross-pollination of ideas under the desert stars. One of the more whimsical, though unconfirmed, stories from the return journey involves a great tragedy and a great feat of engineering. The tale goes that one of your wives gave birth, but the infant was tragically snatched by a crocodile during a stop at a river. To ensure this could never happen again at that spot, you supposedly funded the creation of a fortified town or a system of dams to control the beasts. While likely an apocryphal story meant to illustrate your power and compassion, it points to a truth. Your journey was so epic that it attracted legends, becoming a canvas onto which people projected stories of grand feats and royal emotions. The academic debate about the return journey often centers on the practicalities of this cultural transfer. How effectively were the ideas of a Cairene scholar or an Andalusian architect transmitted to Malian students and builders? Was the knowledge fully integrated, or did it remain a superficial, foreign layer? The evidence from the buildings that were eventually constructed and the intellectual flourishing of Timbuktu suggests the transfer was remarkably successful, a testament to your vision and the adaptability of your own people. Finally, after months of travel, you crossed the desert. The first sight of the green savanna and the familiar silhouette of the baobab trees is a moment of profound relief and triumph. You have done it. You have completed the Hajj, crossed the world's greatest desert twice, showcased the power of your empire, and you are returning not poorer, but richer in the ways that truly matter. As you approach the borders of your own empire, messengers ride ahead to announce your imminent return. The news spreads like wildfire. The Mansa is coming home. You are still on the road, somewhere between the endless sand of the Sahara and the familiar earth of your capital, when the story of your journey begins to take on a life of its own, solidifying into legend in a place you have never been, the island of Majorca, off the coast of Spain. Here, in the year 1375, a Jewish cartographer named Abraham Cresques is hunched over a large piece of vellum, creating a masterpiece for the King of Aragon. This work will become known as the Catalan Atlas, one of the most important and beautiful maps of the medieval world. The Catalan Atlas is not just a work of geography. It's a vibrant tapestry of culture, politics, and myth. It depicts the known world, from China in the east to the Atlantic in the west. And there, in the section representing West Africa, a region often depicted as a blank space or filled with mythical beasts, Cresques draws something new. He draws a kingdom, and on a throne in the middle of it, he draws a king. The king wears a golden crown, and in one hand, he holds a golden scepter. In the other, held out as if in offering, he holds a large, gleaming nugget of pure gold. The caption next to this figure reads, "This black lord is called Masmeli, lord of the Negroes of Guinea." This king is the richest and most noble lord of all this region on account of the abundance of gold which is gathered in his land. This image, this single portrait on a map, is the culmination of all the whispers and rumors that have been rippling out from Cairo for the past 50 years. It is the direct result of your journey. The stories told by the Cairene merchants, passed on to the Venetian and Genoese traders, carried by ship to the ports of Italy and Spain, have finally reached the ears of a mapmaker, and he has given your legend a face. This depiction is revolutionary. For many Europeans, Africa was a land of mystery, the domain of the mythical Christian King Prester John, or a source of monsters and legends. Your portrait on the Catalan Atlas changes that. It puts a real, powerful, human face on West Africa. It presents the continent not as a periphery, but as the seat of an immensely wealthy and organized kingdom. The gold nugget in your hand becomes an iconic symbol, forever associating your name and your empire with unimaginable riches. The image is, of course, a European interpretation. The crown is a European-style crown. The title Lord of the Negroes uses the terminology of the day, but the essence of the story is true to the impression you made. You are depicted as the master of gold. This map would be studied and copied, influencing European understanding of the world for the next century. It would fuel the desire of European powers, particularly Portugal, to bypass the trans-Saharan trade routes controlled by Muslim states and find a sea route to the source of this West African gold. In a very real way, your journey, by advertising your wealth so spectacularly, helped to sow the seeds of the European age of discovery. A little-known fact about the Catalan Atlas is its incredible detail in other areas, drawn from various sources, including the travels of Marco Polo. The fact that your portrait is given such prominence, alongside legends like the Queen of Sheba and the Magi, shows the immense impact your story had on the European imagination. You were not just a king. You had become a figure of mythic stature, a real-world El Dorado. The academic debate here focuses on the accuracy and intent of this portrayal. Is it a respectful depiction of a powerful foreign monarch, or is it an exoticizing caricature, reducing a complex empire to the simple symbol of gold? It's likely a bit of both. For Crasquius, you are a symbol of a distant, fabulously wealthy land, a key piece of information for his royal patron who was interested in trade and global power. But in simplifying your story to a single image, the map also cemented a one-dimensional view of your empire in the European mind. As you make your triumphant return to Neon Eye, you are unaware that you have become a permanent fixture on the maps of the world, an icon of wealth immortalized in ink and gold leaf on a Mediterranean island. You are focused on the future, on the mosques and universities you plan to build, but the world's perception of you has been forever changed. You didn't just put your empire on the map metaphorically, you literally put it on the map. And that image of you, the Golden King, would echo through the centuries, shaping how the world saw Africa for a long, long time. Your return to the Mali Empire is not an end, but a beginning. The epic journey is over, but the great project is just starting. All the knowledge, talent, and inspiration you gathered in the East must now be put to work. Your focus shifts from your capital, Niodai, to a city further north, a dusty but crucial trade hub on the edge of the Sahara, at the great bend of the Niger River. That city is Timbuktu. For centuries, Timbuktu had been an important stop for the caravans trading salt from the north for gold and other goods from the south. It was prosperous, but architecturally and intellectually, it was a provincial town. You saw its potential. It was the perfect gateway, the nexus point between the Arab and Berber world of the Sahara and your own West African heartland. It was here that you would build your grand cultural capital, a new center of Islamic learning to rival the great cities you had visited. The first order of business is for your star architect, the Andalusian poet-builder El-Seychellai. You give him his first, and most important, commission, the construction of a new royal palace for yourself in Timbuktu. And more importantly, a new grand mosque, the Jingyui Rebbe Mosque. This is where the genius of El-Seychellai and the adaptability of your Malian builders truly shine. El-Seychellai didn't build a mosque in Timbuktu the same way he would in Granada or Cordoba. There was no marble, no stone quarries. The primary building material of the Soho was the earth itself, banko, a mixture of clay, straw, and rice husks, which could be formed into bricks and plaster. You watch as Al-Seychelles directs the project, merging the sophisticated geometric principles and aesthetic sensibilities of Moorish Spain with the traditional building techniques of the Sahel. It's a fusion of cultures and architectural form. He introduces new techniques, such as the use of pyramidal minarets and the construction of complex arches and domes using wooden frameworks. But the final product is uniquely West African. The Jing Yui River Mosque rises from the desert floor. Its earthen walls are deep, rich brown, its minaret studded with protruding wooden beams, known as Turan. These beams are not just decorative. They serve as a permanent scaffolding, allowing workers to climb the structure each year to reapply a layer of plaster, essential maintenance against the occasional rains. The construction of these new, magnificent buildings transforms the skyline of Timbuktu. It becomes a city of striking, organic architecture, a style that is both beautiful and perfectly suited to its environment. Your new palace, though no longer standing, was said to be a marvel of the new style. You have successfully imported a new architectural language, and your people have translated it into their native tongue. But you know that buildings are just empty shells without people and ideas to fill them. So, you begin the second phase of your project, the golden remodel of Timbuktu as intellectual life. The scholars and jurists you brought back from Mecca and Cairo are installed in the city as mosques and schools. They bring with them a new rigor and a direct connection to the great intellectual centers of the Islamic world. They don't just teach, they also work alongside local Malian scholars, sharing knowledge and debating ideas. This creates a vibrant intellectual atmosphere. Actually, though subtle, part of this project was the massive influx of books you brought back. A library is not just a collection of books, it's a reservoir of potential. You establish new libraries and expand existing ones, filling them with the texts on law, theology, astronomy, and mathematics that you purchased in Cairo. This sparks a boom in the local book trade. Timbuktu becomes a city where books are more valuable than many other trade goods. Local scribes are trained in the fine art of copying manuscripts, and a flourishing industry of book production and trade emerges. For a time, it was said that more profit was made from the book trade in Timbuktu than from any other line of business. This is a direct result of your patronage. The historical debate here concerns the extent to which Timbuktu was already a center of learning before your arrival. Some evidence suggests it had a modest, scholarly community already. The revisionist view is not that you created the city as intellectual life from scratch, but that your massive investment and importation of outside talent acted as a powerful catalyst, transforming a regional center into an internationally renowned one. You didn't light the fire, but you poured a tanker of fuel on it. Your golden remodel of Timbuktu is a stunning success. In just a few years, the city's reputation begins to spread throughout the Islamic world. It becomes known not just as a place to get rich from gold and salt, but as a place to get rich in knowledge. Students from across North and West Africa begin to flock to Timbuktu to study at the feet of its famous scholars, in the beautiful new mosques you built. You have succeeded in your ultimate goal. You have used your immense wealth to create a lasting center of civilization, a beacon of learning in the heart of your empire. The Jingyui Rebbe Mosque is a triumph, a symbol of the new Timbuktu, but it is just the beginning. The intellectual energy you've injected into the city needs more than one home. It needs an institution. Your vision extends to the creation of a true center of higher learning, something that could be compared to the great universities of Fez, Baghdad, or Cairo. This vision coalesces around the Sankor quarter of Timbuktu. The Sankor Mosque already existed in a simpler form before your time, but under your patronage, it is rebuilt and expanded, becoming the heart of what would effectively function as a university. The Sankor University was not a university in the modern, centralized sense, with a single campus and administration. Instead, It was a collective of independent schools, each run by a master scholar, all loosely associated with the main mass. It was a model of decentralized learning. You, as the Mensa, provide the funding. You endow the schools with reliable sources of income, likely from the revenue of specific trade routes or agricultural lands. This ensures that the scholars can focus on their teaching and research without having to worry about their livelihood. This system of patronage is the financial engine that drives the entire intellectual enterprise. Students who come to Sankor do not pay tuition. They attach themselves to a particular master. The curriculum is rigorous and takes years to complete. It begins, as all Islamic education does, with the Quran. Students must first memorize the Holy Book and become proficient in classical Arabic. This is the foundation upon which all other knowledge is built. After mastering the basics, students could proceed to higher levels of study. The curriculum was astonishingly broad. It covered Islamic law, fiqh, theology, philosophy, and history, but it also included what we would now call the sciences, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Rhetoric, logic, and linguistics were also key subjects. It was a comprehensive classical education. One of the fascinating, lesser-known minus details of the Sankor system was its method of graduation. There was no single, standardized final exam. Instead, when a master felt his student had achieved a sufficient level of learning on moral character, he would present the student to a council of other masters. The student would be questioned and expected to engage in learned debate. If he passed, he was awarded a symbolic white turban, signifying his status as a qualified scholar. He was now free to set up his own school, to become a judge caddy, or to serve as an advisor in your administration. The physical structure of the university was as unique as its academic system. Learning did not take place in large lecture halls. Instead, a master would gather his students, sometimes just a handful, sometimes a few dozen, in the courtyard of a mosque, under the shade of an arcade, or in his own private home. The atmosphere was intimate and Socratic. It was based on dialogue, debate, and the close reading of texts. The texts themselves were the lifeblood of the university. The libraries you endow, filled with the books from Cairo and supplemented by the booming local copying industry, were the essential infrastructure. A scholar's reputation and wealth were often measured by the size and quality of his personal library. These libraries were scattered across the city in the homes of the scholars, creating a decentralized network of knowledge. Thousands of these manuscripts from Timbuktu's golden age survive to this day, a testament to the city's incredible intellectual heritage. The academic debate continues over how African Sankor's intellectual tradition was. While the language of instruction was Arabic and the core curriculum was rooted in the broader Islamic world, it was not a simple carbon copy of institutions elsewhere. The scholars of Timbuktu developed their own unique perspectives, particularly in the field of Islamic law, adapting its principles to the specific cultural and social context of West Africa. They wrote their own commentaries on the original works, creating a distinct Timbuktu school of thought. It was a fusion, a conversation between the global and the local, which you made possible. You have now built more than just mosques. You have built an entire educational ecosystem. The mud brick walls of Sankor University house a vibrant intellectual community that will flourish for centuries. It becomes the crown jewel of your empire, a testament to the idea that true wealth lies not in the gold you can spend, but in the knowledge you can cultivate. Your pilgrimage is now bearing its most profound fruit, creating a legacy that will long outlast the memory of the gold you gave away. You, Mansa Musa, will rule for approximately 25 years, a reign defined by peace, prosperity, and this extraordinary cultural flourishing. Your pilgrimage did not bankrupt the empire. On the contrary, by advertising its wealth and stability, it may have even strengthened its position in global trade. The golden age you ushered in is a period of unparalleled prestige for the Mali Empire. Timbuktu and Jen are beacons of learning and commerce. The empire is secure, well administered, and fabulously wealthy. But no golden age lasts forever. The great challenge for any powerful empire is succession. The structures of power you perfected were heavily centralized around your own person. Your authority, your vision, and your personal relationships were the glue that held the vast, diverse territory together. What happens when that glue is gone? Upon your death around the year 1337, you are succeeded by your son, Meganai. You had prepared him for this role. He served as your regent during the Great Pilgrimage, an experience that should have provided him with the necessary training. However, Megan seems to have lacked your vision and your political skill. He inherited the wealth but not the wisdom. His reign is short and troubled. The first sign of weakness appears on the empire's fringes. The city of Timbuktu, your prized creation, is raided and burned by the Mossy people from the south. While Megan manages to retake the city, the attack is a sign that the aura of invincibility your rule had created is beginning to fade. Neighboring powers are testing the new management. After Mag Hunt's brief 4-year reign, the throne is seized by your brother, Suleiman. This is a significant moment. It marks a period of internal strife and dynastic disputes, a classic symptom of an empire in decline. Suleiman is a more capable ruler than Magan. He restores order, cracks down on corruption, and receives a visit from the great traveler Ibn Battuta, whose writings will provide the world with one of the most detailed first-hand accounts of life in the Mali Empire. Ibn Battuta's account is fascinating because it describes an empire that is still incredibly wealthy, orderly, and safe. He marvels at the security of the roads, noting that a traveler could journey for months without fear of bandits. He is impressed by the piety of the people and the strictness of the justice system. This suggests that the fundamental institutions you built were strong and enduring. However, Ibn Battuta also provides hints of the rot that is setting in. He describes the court of Suleiman as being less grand and generous than the legends of your own court. He notes rivalries and plots among the ruling elite. The unity and singular purpose that defined your reign are beginning to fracture. A little-known but crucial factor in the empire's eventual decline was its reliance on the trans-Saharan trade routes. The economic health of Mali depended on the constant flow of gold north and salt south. But in the 15th century, a new player enters the game, the Portuguese. Driven by the very legends of your wealth that you helped create, Portuguese explorers sailing down the coast of West Africa established their own trading posts. They offer new goods and a new maritime route for trade, bypassing the long and arduous desert caravans. This slowly begins to siphon off the economic lifeblood of your empire. The world is changing, and the foundations of Mali's power are being eroded from the outside. The academic debate surrounding Mali's decline is complex. Was it primarily due to internal factors, weak rulers, dynastic struggles, and the sheer difficulty of governing such a vast territory? Or was it due to external pressures, the rise of new rival kingdoms like the Songhai Empire, and the shift in global trade routes caused by the Europeans? The consensus is that it was a combination of both. The internal weaknesses made the empire vulnerable, and the external pressures provided the final push. After Suleiman, the empire enters a long, slow period of decline, marked by civil wars and the breaking away of vassal states. The great empire you ruled begins to shrink, its edges nibbled away by rivals. The final blow comes in the late 15th century, when the rising Songhai Empire, centered on the city of Gao, conquers the old Malian heartlands, including Timbuktu. The Mali Empire continues to exist as a smaller, rump state for some time, but its days of glory, the golden age you personified, are over. The story of what comes after you is a poignant reminder that even the greatest and wealthiest empires are subject to the tides of history. So, after this epic journey across the desert, to the markets of Cairo, to the heart of Mecca, and back again to build a civilization, we are left with one final, tantalizing question. The question that started it all. Was you, Mansa Musa, truly the richest person in all of human history? The answer is, frustratingly unfashionately, it's complicated. Trying to calculate your net worth in modern terms is a fool's errand. We can throw around figures like 400 billion, or even trillions, but they are meaningless. How do you put a price on something that is essentially priceless? Your wealth was just in a bank account. It was the ground beneath your feet. You controlled one of the world's most significant sources of gold at a time when gold was the ultimate measure of wealth. Your empire produced, by some estimates, more than half of the entire old world's supply. Unlike modern billionaires whose wealth is tied up in stocks and assets with fluctuating market values, your wealth was tangible. It was pure, physical gold. But even more than that, your power gave you control over resources that are impossible to quantify. You controlled the flow of salt, a life-or-death commodity. You commanded the labor of millions of subjects. You didn't need to buy an army or a palace. You were the state, and they were yours by right. In this sense, your wealth was effectively infinite within the context of your own empire. The most compelling argument for you being the richest ever is not about numbers, but about impact. Can you name another single individual in history who, through their personal spending on a single trip, could fundamentally crash the value of the world's most important commodity across an entire geopolitical region for more than a decade? Jeff Bezos can't do that. Elon Musk can't do that. Their wealth is immense, but it's still just a fraction of the total global economy. Your wealth, in that brief, spectacular moment in Cairo, was the global economy. You had the power to break it by accident. That represents a level of relative wealth that is simply unattainable today. The academic debate on this topic is, of course, endless. Historians and economists love to argue about it. They create complex models, adjusting for inflation, comparing purchasing power, and analyzing the GDP of 14th century empires. Some argue that figures like Augustus Caesar, who personally owned the entire nation of Egypt, or certain Gilded Age robber barons who controlled a larger percentage of their nation's GDP, might have a claim. But these comparisons always fall short. Augustus Caesar's wealth was tied to state power, and the robber barons to industrial monopolies. Yours was based on direct control of the raw material that defined wealth itself. A quirky but telling piece of evidence is, once again, the catalogue atlas. The fact that a European mapmaker, a world away, felt the most important thing to convey about your entire region was your personal wealth speaks volumes. You weren't just a king, you were the Golden King. Your identity became synonymous with wealth on a global scale. No other historical figure, before or since, has so completely dominated the world's imagination for their riches alone. So where does that leave us? Perhaps the best way to understand your wealth is to stop thinking of it as a number and start thinking of it as a force of nature. It was like a river, and you could choose to let it flow, nourishing your own kingdom, or you could choose to divert it, as you did in Cairo, flooding everything in its path. Your true legacy, however, is not the gold. The gold is gone, spent, and dispersed. The economic chaos in Cairo eventually subsided. Your empire, like all empires, eventually fell. What remains? The Jane-Hui Reber Mosque still stands in Timbuktu, its earthen walls a testament to the cultural fusion you sponsored. The Sankore University, its legacy lives on in the thousands of manuscripts that are still being preserved and studied, a treasure trove of African intellectual history. The story of your journey itself is perhaps the most enduring treasure, a powerful reminder of a time when a West African empire was the global center of both wealth and culture. You were more than just rich. You used your wealth to pursue faith, to build a nation, and to create a lasting center of learning. You turned gold into knowledge, and that is a kind of alchemy that no modern billionaire has ever managed to master. So were you the richest person in history? Maybe. But what's more certain is that you were one of the most incredible. Your story challenges our perceptions of history, of Africa, and of the very nature of wealth itself. And so, our long journey with the Golden King comes to an end. We have walked with him across the sands, felt the weight of his gold, and witnessed the birth of a legend. The dust of his caravan has settled back into the earth, but the echo of his story remains, a soft and shimmering tale carried on the desert wind. Now the sounds of the bustling markets and the quiet prayers in the mosque begin to fade, replaced by a deeper, more peaceful silence. The story is over, and it is time for rest. Let the images of the journey soften and blur at the edges. The sharp glint of gold softens into a warm, gentle glow. The vast, intimidating desert becomes a soft, sandy blanket. The murmur of the crowds in Cairo becomes a distant, soothing hum, like the gentle whir of a fan in a quiet room. You are no longer an observer in history. You are simply you, comfortable, safe, and ready for sleep. Let your thoughts drift away like clouds, releasing the day's concerns, letting go of the narrative. There are no more destinations to reach, no more challenges to overcome. There is only the quiet space of this moment, a peaceful stillness that precedes the world of dreams. Feel the gentle pull of sleep, an invitation to a different kind of journey, one created just for you, in the landscape of your own mind.